Cool. What is up, everyone? Now it's been a while since we have done a sit-down video. A lot of my majority of my last couple of videos have been vlogs. They've been traveling, they've been on the move. So, I don't know, this is kind of weird for me. I'm here, I'm sitting down because it was exactly a year ago that I was preparing myself to leave for France. I can't believe it's been a year. A whole year has passed since I was getting ready and packing, getting as much information as I can to get ready to leave. There were a lot of stuff that I wish that I knew before I left. I wanted to make a video for people who are traveling to Paris or who are gonna be studying abroad in Paris. Just like want to know some stuff that maybe someone else may have not told them, because there was a lot. It was definitely a learning curve. There was a lot of things that I wasn't prepared for and I wasn't ready to learn. There was so much that would have been beneficial for me to know before going there. This is obviously not everything you could possibly know, but this is kind of like the important things that I think people should know before traveling to Paris this time of year, as in January to like May. I don't know, as an American who has only been exposed to what we've seen Paris portrayed as in movies, you know, it's portrayed as this magical, this mystical, this wonderful place. And it is, but it also isn't. And I think that was the hardest part to realize, that the people who live there deal with as much as we do on a daily basis. They may live in a really gorgeous place. They're people and they deal with stuff that we deal with every day. And, you know, I kind of didn't really think of that when I first got there. So this is a couple of things that I think are important to know before you go to Paris, and also traveling in Europe in general. I'm also barefaced. This is kind of gonna be a get ready with me, but like not really, because I'm not going anywhere. It's rainy today. I kind of don't plan on leaving my house besides going to the gym. So this is kind of a get ready with me, but like kind of also like just like a chit chat like thing. I don't really know what to call it, but I was like, I want to do something while I'm doing something. Without further ado, let's begin. So I'm first gonna start off by moisturizing my face, because my face, she needs it. She needs that moisturizer. This is from one of my favorite new indie brands. This daily moisturizer specifically has hyaluronic acid in it, and your girl needs it this time of year. My skin is so clear, by the way. I'm using other stuff from Meraki besides this moisturizer. I'm gonna put the link to the site below. While that sinks in, let's talk about my first tip for traveling to Paris. If you can travel to Paris during the spring, do it. Springtime is absolutely beautiful. Everything is blooming, everything, you know, colors coming back to the city after like such a long and harsh winter. The springtime in Paris is absolutely stunning, and as someone from North Carolina, I actually got to enjoy the spring because they don't have pine pollen there. You know, that yellow stuff that just kind of like sprinkles everywhere. I was so surprised. I didn't think I'd ever enjoy the spring. So go during the spring. It was definitely worth it traveling to Paris for my spring semester last year. I would completely go through that harsh winter just to get that spring again. Honestly, the city was as magical as people say it is in the springtime. And the next tip I have is, while you're in Paris, walk with a purpose. Paris is a city. Wow, that was a revelation. Like any city, there's a lot going on all the time, every day. Walk with confidence. Walk like you know where you're going. And if you don't know where you're going, don't do that whole entire thing where you like stop, you meander, you know, everyone's still moving around you. Go where you're going, and even if it's wrong, continue to go in the way that you're going, but with confidence, because people will kind of see that. You know, it helps you fit in, honestly, if you have that demeanor like, I own this place. The next tip I have for Paris is, when you're in the subways, because the subway or the metro is what people primarily use to travel by. When you're in the subway, people are like, oh, you should keep your possessions close to you, don't take your phone out, don't do this, don't do that. You honestly can like obviously take your phone out. You just have to be smart about it. If you're gonna have your phone out, you need to have both hands grip on your phone. You need to have, I mean, this is a highlighter, so like kind of like visualize. You need to have not only your hand like around your phone like you would normally have, but you need to have a couple of fingers on the top. People will literally run past you if you're holding your phone out like this. They'll take your phone and they'll run out the closing subway doors. And there's nothing that you can do. We had a couple of kids who lost their phones on the subways because they were not paying attention and keeping a close eye on their things. I had no problem with using my phone on the subway. You have to make sure you're paying attention to your surroundings and you just have to be vigilant. Next tip. One of my favorite things was that from the grocery store, wine is cheap and good. So the two like primary, obviously they're like corner stores that you can go to, but the two primary like proper grocery stores, Franprix and Monoprix. These are like, I would say like the Monoprix is more like kind of like your Target. Like they do have clothes, they do have makeup, they do have other stuff that they sell there as well as groceries. Franprix is more of just like a Harris Teeter or something. Those are like your go-to, like if it's a nice day, it's time to go outside, it's time to enjoy the weather. The grocery stores honestly have like €3, which is like $5, €3 bottles of wine, like by the multitude. They're honestly pretty good. Like if you're like, oh, randomly, let's go and picnic out by the Louvre, then you'd be like, okay, cool, let's go get some wine, let's go get some bread, let's go get cheese. You pop into the grocery store, you grab all that stuff, and it's like, it's honestly a pretty good price for all that. Along with the wine, do not be afraid to ask strangers for a bottle opener. A lot of the time, my friends and me, we would try and get wine that has a screw cap because most of the time we didn't have wine openers with us. But if we were picnicking in an area with a bunch of other tourists or locals and we happened to get a bottle that needed to be opened with a bottle opener, do not be afraid to go up to someone and be like, hey, everyone's enjoying the sun just like you. Don't be afraid to go up and say, hey, can I like borrow the bottle opener? There are gonna be a lot of people from a bunch of different countries there enjoying the weather as much as you. It connects you to your surroundings even more than before. It's a little thing that just makes kind of everything better. But to be fair, that is the only time that you should talk to strangers. Besides clerks at stores and people, you know, when you're asking for information for like someone in a train station, you go up to a clerk and you're like, hey, I don't know where I'm going, can you help me? Typically in the South, in America, people just love talking to people. And I honestly don't get it because I don't like talking to random strangers. You really don't do that in Paris, especially on the subway. Like, you do not talk on the subway. Like, nobody talks on the subway. It's like, you know, you're smushed up against everybody, you know, if it's rush hour, you're smushed up against everybody, and that's just not a time to have small talk. Don't do that. More on public transport. Sorry about all these are on public transport. I mean, that's just like a big thing in Paris. Public transport though, there's an app called RATP. That app will save your actual life. That's like the system that they have, that the subways, the buses, the trains all run on. That app compiles all of that information that you need about what bus routes to take, and it tells you, it gives you multiple options about how to get somewhere. So say I wanted to go from Luxembourg, Notre Dame to Eiffel Tower. If I know the trains aren't working and I'm like, okay, I can only take buses, it'll give me all the bus routes that I need, what stops I need to get off at. It gives you every step of the way, when the next one's coming, what the times are, everything that you need to know with how to get around. And it's honestly the best thing on the entire planet. The only time it's not helpful is when there are strikes and everything's up, because it gives you the time of the normal schedule, but it's like you're not having a normal schedule. But then sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. It's a good way to like teach yourself how to use metro systems. Wow, that's an awful brow. The last tip I have for Paris in general is know when and where strikes are. One of the main questions that I got when I was going to Paris was, you know, you're going to Paris, there's a lot of protests, there's a lot of things going on, there's a lot of demonstrations, like, are you gonna be safe? Is it really a safe city? Is it really blah, 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 blah. Not every city is gonna be safe. You know, I'll turn around and I'll tell them, okay, look at New York City, look at Detroit, look at Chicago, places you visit here in America that are major cities and have just as much crime as the next city. It is more important now than ever to pay attention where strikes are and what's going on. The French are very, very good at, they plan their protests in advance. If you're staying with a host family or you're staying in a foyer with other students, word will get around like, hey, on this day, there's gonna be a protest here. So those metro stations aren't gonna be working, or there's gonna be a lot of people in that area protesting for this. Make sure you avoid that, make sure you be careful, because it can mess up a lot of things and it can make things a little bit more difficult. And just to be safe for you, protests primarily affect public transport. So if you are trying to get somewhere, you may have to kind of think about where you want to go and how you're gonna get there, because I remember we were trying to go somewhere to a coffee shop that was like near a protest, and the closest metro station to where that protest was, it was at République, was closed because of the protest. Traveling in Paris is just, in general, it's a journey. Don't get me wrong, public transport's great there. It's great. It's great. A lot of the time it's just not fast. On that note, the whole thing about French people hating Americans is just not true. They actually think Americans are pretty cool. Don't talk about politics, because just don't. That's like the major things I have about traveling in Paris specifically. Now for traveling in Europe in general, because if you are studying abroad in Europe, it is very easy to travel. If you are studying abroad and you're like, I'm here, I'm in Europe, I want to travel, I want to go to places, it's super convenient, it's super easy. Know that it is completely fine to travel on your own. If you want to go somewhere, go there. Do not wait for someone else to join you to go to a place that you really want to go. So I'm not gonna wait for someone else to figure their shit out in order for me to figure my shit out. I'm just gonna do my shit. And if it happens to align with what they want to do, that way you can tell them and be like, hey, I'm gonna be there at this time. If you're there at that time as well, cool deal. The next tip I have for traveling, do not hesitate to search up your SIM card options for the area that you are traveling to. For example, when I was in England, I went to O2, I was there for a long weekend, and I got a SIM card that had 2 gigs. They gave me my own English number, all for £10. That's pretty good. And it lasted me that weekend. So I wasn't lost with where I was going. I could pull up maps. It was honestly the best thing that I chose to do, because then I could figure out where I was going when I traveled to London on my own. There will be countries where, like in Italy, unless you're staying there for a long period of time, getting a SIM card is not really cost efficient. But if you go to a country and there is availability to get a cheap SIM card, get it. Also, when traveling in general, do not be afraid to make multiple stops somewhere. When I was traveling to France, I went from North Carolina to Boston to Iceland, and then Iceland to France. That trip alone was $400. If you have checked luggage and you are making multiple stops places, obviously there is risk with potentially having your luggage get lost, but that comes with traveling even one way. At any point, honestly, you can lose your luggage. My advice for that is if you are packing for studying abroad. I was in Paris for 4 months. I had 1 checked luggage, a carry-on, and then a personal item. I put a week's worth of clothes into a carry-on just in case my luggage happened to be lost, and I put all of my important things into my personal item and my carry-on luggage. So that stuff wouldn't leave me. Do the multiple stops. It's worth it. It takes a while, but it's worth it in the end. You know, honestly, you'll have stories to tell. Like, part of the event adventure is getting there. Along with that, if possible, only travel with a carry-on. So have a small piece of luggage that can fit into an overhead compartment. Have like, you know, your personal item like a backpack or something that fits under the seat. In the event that you do have to make multiple stops and you're traveling somewhere, say for a week, and you know you don't need a massive, you know, checked luggage, take what you need and fit it into that small thing. So if you are making multiple stops, there's less of a chance that stuff gets lost, stuff gets damaged. Overall, my trip to Paris was great. It was a scary experience. Like, expect traveling and living in another country to be scary. You're gonna encounter things that you never thought you would encounter before. And you're certainly gonna run into a lot of things that I did not mention in this video. You need to go into traveling to another country with openness. That's the best word. Don't expect someone to know how to speak English. Don't expect people to completely understand what you're getting at. Go with low expectations so that you're surprised and you're like, oh, this is better than I thought it would be. But you have to look for the beauty within those struggles. That's just life. You know, things could be rough, but you just gotta go for the things that make you happy. And for us, that maybe would mean getting a bottle of wine and sitting in a garden, watching the city go by, or sitting at a cafe and watching people walk by with their dogs and everybody enjoying life. The city is beautiful, yes. You make it magical. It's the people that makes it magical. It's the environment, the architecture, and the history that makes it magical. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and try new things. Like, I went out every single day. Every single day. When I'm home in North Carolina, I don't go at all. I don't like leaving my house. But when I was in Paris, I was like, I have 4 months here. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna do as much as I can. But traveling in general, don't let something stop you because it's slightly scary or you're afraid. Acknowledge that fear and then do it anyway. That's the best advice that I can have on this entire thing, traveling to Paris and other places. This video, I hope, is not that long, but it probably will be, because I talk a lot. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my channel. A lot of the videos I normally do are not really sit down anymore, so much so they're usually out and about, they're usually vloggy. That's it for today. I'm sweating, I'm very warm, and I will see you guys when I see you. Bye!